So cheap. All right, we'll start over. You do your thing again.
Record.
That was good. That was really good.
Was
What's going on?
that epic? Did you feel was that Oscar worthy?
You should have been like, we're recording. Give us like a Clooney.
You guys sunglasses?
We're recording, baby.
Oh yes, I can do this thing.
The Caruso thing.
Yeah.
What that is?
From
CSI?
CSI. Yeah, I was fear of NCIS or
that
CSI.
guy. He's in a. So many people hate him, and I get why they hate him because it's so stupid, like the glasses and all that shit. But he's in an excellent horror movie called Session 9.
Yes.
Yeah,
Fantastic movie.
I think I made Barry watch it. I don't know, maybe.
I watched it a while back. Anyway, what's going on, everybody? Join our conversation, will you?
Oh look. Okay. I want to let our audience answer. You ask them what's going on, and then
It's rhetorical.
start talking over him. What an asshole!
Goddamn rhetorical. Anyway, my name's Barry. Derek, that keeps interrupting me. And Will today has joined us.
Look, Kent, titties.
Look, Kent titties.
Can't wait till that. I'm thinking maybe tomorrow I'll put that up. Maybe the day before.
Well,
Anyway,
I sent the link to Kent, and I sent it to his wife too, so she could hear the horrible stories about how you guys corrupted her husband before she got a hold of him.
Really, when you open them up, they may have never met if he was still hiding in his Christian basement.
what'd be funny is if he still never touched her titties. That'd be funny. They have a kid.
Yeah.
He's like,
And
no,
we're talking about Kent's wife's titties all of a sudden.
I'm not for the record. Hi, Katie.
He's like, my great grandpa was killed by Melanie Mountains. She broke his neck, and ever since then I can't look at titties. I love the shit, the alliterative big titty girl names.
We need Kent to join real quick and just shh. I like to keep the shirt on. Or I like when the girl keeps the shirt on. I don't want to see those sin bobbers.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but we're going to be talking about two movies today. One's an 80s horror movie.
Yes.
That doesn't involve titties, right?
Yeah, what the fuck? There was no nudity.
Come on.
I was disappointed, and I was like, Will, what is this garbage you've given us that there isn't a random girl? It's like, I'm going to put some shorts on to answer the front door, but not a top.
But yeah, so with it being Valentine's Day, Will wanted to watch St. Valentine's Day Massacre, which is a
67, I think.
historical pick that concerns, of course, St. Valentine's Day Massacre in Chicago with Bugs Moran and Al Capone. Tells that story, and then kind of looking also into the double feature of My Bloody Valentine, so the early slasher film.
What year was it? Was it 84 or something?
81.
81.
Very small town that's got a history, a strange history, and yeah.
See, no one responded to my comment where on our Facebook chat where it's like, I think you and me, Barry, need to make a movie that's the setup for My Bloody Valentine or whatever, where it's like oh, you're in this old town, small town, it's got this history of the slasher, and then someone gets fucking brutally murdered, around the time frame that it's supposed to happen. And they're like, oh my god, the slasher's back, and everyone's freaking out, and the whole movie is jump scares, and it's you'll see a camera creeping up on some girl walking through a dark barn, and she turns her ah, and screams, and it cuts, and you move on with the movie. Then at the very end, they're all together, and it's yeah, man, I was in the barn, and this cat jumped out and scared me. There's no slasher. It's just a homeless person killed one person randomly.
I like the idea that you keep setting it up. You really do. You don't see what happens. Like you're saying, I like
Yeah.
the idea that you like.
I just want the audience to be completely pissed off at the end of the movie. Like, what the fuck? This isn't a slasher movie? Like, nothing happened?
Well, here's the thing. Interestingly enough, I own 2 DVD versions of My Bloody Valentine. One, I bought it was one of those like double feature discs, like that they used to have at Walmart. And there's a movie on that disc. The other features a movie called April Fool's Day, which sounds a lot like what you're talking about, Derek.
Oh, yeah.
It's like it's crazy. Like I thought. Well, Derek's just describing April Fool's Day. What the fuck's he doing?
I get really excited when you mentioned My Bloody Valentine because it was one of those. I remember, and we shared a picture online this week about or through our chat about 80s horror like VHS tapes, like the covers. Like to me, if I could get a screenshot from like my local video store and design a checklist based off of it, all those cool classic 80s horror movie boxes. April Fool's Day is the one that's got the girl's back with her hair as a noose. Is that right?
I
On
think
the cover?
she's got a knife behind her back. I think.
Yeah.
She might have a noose in her other hand.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
I could be mistaken, of course.
There was also a movie that was more recent where it was on a college campus, some stupid movie that, try to play off Scary Movie area. And it was like this group of people were all working together to drive this one person crazy, this one girl. And they were faking all these murders and had, people like looking like they were dead and shit. I can't remember what it was, but it was dumb.
Going back to that movie plot, though, I'd love to see like the girl screams and like her friends like, "Hey, I got you your Blizzard. Don't you want a Blizzard?" And like all those scenes kind of happen like that, and at the very end, they're all like, "It's a crazy week, man. I thought I was gonna get killed. I thought the slash, and then like a plane just crashes on them, and that's the end of the movie."
Y'all should watch Happy Death Day though. That one's pretty great. It's pretty funny, and it's Groundhog Day but a slasher, and it's kind of funny because the girl keeps getting killed in different locations and ways. Like she has trouble avoiding it, and it's kind of funny to just see her go through the motions. Like, oh my god, here we go. And because like she wakes up in some guy's bed in college, like like some people do, or usually Hollywood portrays, and usually she goes through the motions and eventually she's just like, get the fuck out of the way, like, and just runs it out of his room and stuff.
I gotta check that out. I was gonna watch the second Cheerleader this weekend, but I did not. Was it the Cheerleader? No, the Babysitter.
Oh yeah, the Babysitter. Yeah, I think I
really
watched
loved
that.
God,
those are both. Or first one's great, and if I remember correctly, the second one's great. I can't remember if I've seen it. Have you seen it, Will?
I have not. I have
Wow.
not.
Yeah.
They're on Netflix. They're modern movies, but they're really good. It's this kid gets like a super hot babysitter, and then
Who kind of watches them for a long while, so they've got like a really great relationship. It's almost like an older sister set up.
Yeah, and she comes over to babysit him and puts him to bed, but he like winds up getting up, and she invites a bunch of her friends over, and they basically do like a satanic seance to like summon the devil and sacrifice this like nerdy kid and stuff.
What's the name of this movie?
I think just Babysitter or The Babysitter. It's not the
Well, because there's a guy that was making pretty cool movies a couple years ago. He made a movie called House of the Devil. I can't remember the guy's name, but he made horror movies that like they're just, I can't remember the guy's name. He did
70s movies.
Well, he did House of the Devil. It's a movie set in the 80s, but like there's no real reason for it to be set in the 80s other than like I guess they didn't want cell phones and stuff like that in it. Have you all seen that one?
Holy shit! I finally figured it out. I know why Will doesn't have a phone, because he's so angry about how they ruin horror movies.
Oh yeah,
that's the whole reason Will doesn't have a cell phone.
I keep wanting to see this movie. It looks so cool, but I just never have. Yeah, Ty West is the one that's tied to the House of the Devil.
It looks like he did the Innkeepers, which people love for some reason, but I thought it was all right. That was kind of like my or like you're saying that April Fool's one, where it's like there isn't much that really happens in it, but you keep thinking something's gonna happen. If I remember correctly.
what's funny is we have a double feature and we're only talking about horror movies. But I don't know other movies that we could compare the St. Valentine's Day Massacre to. I was shocked. You might have mentioned it before, but I don't recall that Roger Corman was tied to this. Like I totally got that portion.
What's funny is I didn't look at anything up going into it, and I figured it's a horror movie just because of the name, and also Will recommended it, and then I kind of looked online. I was trying to look it up, figure out which one I needed to get because I think there's like a newer one that may have nothing to do with what the story is, and then I saw Roger Corman. I was like, all right, this is going to be some schlocky horror movie. And I was almost like totally turned away from it at the very beginning because the beginning music is fucking awful. Like whatever tune they played at the very beginning, it's so freaking bad.
Yeah, it's actually somewhat historically accurate music from that era.
I would say it was probably terrible back then too.
Probably, but it's what they had.
Yeah,
it'd be weird if like you heard fucking like Dr. Dre or Snoop on this fucking soundtrack. Where you heard 99 Love Balloons.
But no, it's like I had a very Dragnet, like I posted, I had a very Dragnet feeling with it, just with like the overdub, and I can't remember what movie I've seen recently that was like a mobster movie. I think it may have been The Irishman, where they did the same thing where they would introduce a character and basically tell when they died, and whatever movie it was disappointing because you had all these like horrible, shitty mobsters, and like every single one of them just like died peacefully at old age. None of them died like horrible murders like they deserved.
In this time, Will, or like I guess really before he becomes like the legend that we know today, this feels like his biggest budget.
Yes. Well,
Is
he
Are you there? Did he?
I think he cut out.
He's gonna have to upgrade that 56K. He's gonna have to call America Online.
He's got that dial up going. Are you back?
All right, what about now?
Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what happened. I started talking, and then like I just saw blank faces on you guys. Anyway, now Roger Corman did a Frankenstein movie in the mid '80s. I think it's called The Bride, and it had the biggest budget ever. I think it was the last movie he directed. Early in his career, before he started doing the Edgar Allan Poe movies, Roger Corman did like cheap drive-in gangster movies and low-budget monster movies. And Machine Gun Kelly, it's I think it came out in the late 50s, and it's one of the first movies that starred Charles Bronson where he had a talking part, and it's pretty cool. It's not available on DVD in America for some reason, but it's a really cool movie. And I think what happened, all those Poe movies that he made in the 60s, Pin and Pendulum, House of Usher, like they saw that, like, you know, he knew how to spend money, which his way of spending money was to not pay anybody, and like, you know, go as cheap as possible. His thing was like, hey, you can get exposure. It's kind of like that bullshit like they do like artists now, but like, you know, it actually worked back then because that's how we got De Niro and Scorsese and Coppola and Pierre Bogdanovich and stuff like that. And I think what happened in the mid 60s, the gangster movies started coming back. I don't know if this came out before or after Bonnie and Clyde, but like I think he always wanted to make this movie, but he just never had the budget, and he wanted to have Orson Welles play Capone, but the studio said no, we don't want him. Orson Welles is box office poison, and like so they did Jason Robards, which Jason Robards is a hell of an actor.
I think he does great.
I think he did a perfect job, and when I saw him, I was like, who the fuck is this guy? I know I've seen him in something, and it was shoot, let me pull it back up. It was Enemy of the State. He was in. He was like the congressman that gets killed at the very beginning that sets the whole movie.
Well, he's one of the best actors, like best American actor.
Uh-oh. He cut out again. There he is. He's back, I think.
Motherfucker.
Say,
What internet do you have out of curiosity?
It's Windstream.
Okay, yeah.
Fucking garbage.
Yeah, you should have to,
Oh, the thing is, like, there's no other real option here. But anyway,
You can't get the cable internet out there.
I don't want it.
oh, okay.
Well, I've heard people, my neighbors that have Spectrum, go like, "Yeah, we're trying to get rid of this. We're going to go back to Windstream," and I'm like thinking, like, "Well, fuck." So anyway, what was I talking about?
Tim Robards.
Oh yeah, Jason Robards is one of the great American. He's a great American actor. Like, he's won 2 Oscars for supporting actor. He's been in just a ton of movies. Like Melvin and Howard's a great movie. Philadelphia's a great movie. All the President's Men is a great movie.
It's one of the assholes in Philadelphia.
Yes, that movie Parenthood, like shit, who's this?
Steve Martin movie.
Yes, that's weird. What's weird is that Robart and Tom Hulce have this crazy father-son relationship that's totally believable, and it kind of pisses me off because Tom Hulce should have been are you all familiar with him?
I'm sure.
He's in Animal House, and he played Mozart in Amadeus.
Oh, then yeah.
Really cool actor, but like he just didn't do a whole lot after that, and it doesn't make any sense. But I digress. Being from Chicago, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre is like one of our big legends, and WGN Channel 9, the TV station that shows Bozo, for when we were growing up, I think they started doing it in the late 70s because Corman sold all his TV AIP movies to television, and they started showing the St. Valentine's Day Massacre on Valentine's Day on WGN, and that was back before it was on tape. So if you wanted to watch it, you had to wait to Valentine's Day, and they only showed it once. And then about 89, they started they'd show it all week at the same time every night on Valentine's Day week because everybody loved the movie and everybody watched it. And it was a cult favorite at the Kitchen household. Like we watched it whenever it's wild because there have been depictions of Al Capone before that because The Untouchables was out 10 years before that, but the guy who played Al Capone in The Untouchables was a really cool actor. His name's escaping me right now. If y'all want to look that up. No, Neville Brand. Like, are you familiar with him?
I'm not familiar with it. So is it the original? You talking about did they make another movie?
The Untouchables TV show.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Neville Brand, I think, played Al Capone. And Neville Brand is one of those guys that he always played bad guys in movies, but he was like a real American hero. Like he was like one of the most decorated people in United States military history. Interesting guy, but that's the Untouchables, and the Howard Hawks Scarface is kind of based off of Al Capone as well, which it's a good movie. But man, if you're Italian, it might be the most offensive. Like have y'all seen it?
The original Scarface.
The original Scarface that Howard Hawks did in 1930 something, 31 or 32. Paul Mooney plays him, and Paul Mooney wasn't Italian, and he talks something like this, and it's a very stereotypical Italian, if you did that with an Indian now, they probably crucify you, how much they stereotyped it. But there's a little bit of that in St. Valentine's Day Massacre, but not a whole lot. I mean, it's basically the Italians and the Irish from the Depression era.
Yeah.
So this was the first time you all seen the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see. So I know I have seen, and of course I know the story from history, but I may have watched this in class at some point in time. We may have watched this in school. Because I definitely remember that. I remember the shoot, the execution scene, and of course seeing the old pictures and stuff too. But
there's almost more nudity in this movie than there is in My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah, that there's a fight scene in it that's a little. That
fight scene was great.
Yeah. But do you just want to y'all just want to keep bantering? Do y'all want to kind of go into these movies a little bit? What do you want to do here? How are we going to handle this?
Well, it sounds like we've opened up.
Kind of open it up.
The
They
Massacre.
open up so. Yeah. Well,
so we'll going back there. So we used to make trips to Chicago all the time, and but never did like any Capone stuff. And I'm sure there's a slew of stuff there to visit and tour.
like the Syphilis Museum.
But is this like the premier St. Valentine's Day Massacre movie?
this thing, I don't know if
Many others.
they touched on it in the Untouchables show, like very briefly. But like and considering it was television back then, it's pretty violent. I don't know of any other versions of that have done the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
No.
There's a movie called Capone that just came out with Tom Hardy in it, but I don't know what it covers and what it doesn't cover because it doesn't look like it's that good of a movie. Tom Hardy is a brilliant actor.
Yeah, I can see him putting on a great Capone. We watched. I'm a big Boardwalk Empire fan. I forget the guy's name that played Capone in that. That to me is Capone. And watching this, though, I'm like, this guy does a great job. I mean, he's got range for days. He's got the anger. I always think of Capone as just some guy that's like, yeah, nice. He wants the fame. He's in front of the newspapers, but he's
piss him off.
He's an absolute cutthroat. I mean, it's like Jekyll and Hyde. A man that can turn it off and on.
Well, one of the things that like I caught because I watched it again last night, just to like make sure everything was fresh in my mind, and they mentioned that like basically that the cutthroat ruthlessness of the gangsters in the 30s kind of that aggression and hostility. They quit doing it with machine guns. They started doing it with lawyers and stuff like that. And that's when corporations and businessmen became like the thing after the Depression ended. What was I going to say? 1 second. I sneeze. All right. Well, and the thing is, like, during the Depression, like, those gangsters, like, they made people, like, I assume that we're going to have something like going on like that here in America soon because of our current economic state, and like we're dealing with like the plague and the Great Depression at the same time. So I'm seeing like almost like a revert to like the primitive mobster days.
There's a lot of big companies who are preparing for a recession in the next like 8 to 11 months.
Yeah,
like seriously.
Well, and I started thinking about it. Like, there's a lot of mob tactics that are common business practices nowadays. Like, credit cards are just loan sharking, but like instead of like breaking your legs, they make it so you can't buy anything anymore unless you use cash if you fuck them over. And yeah, and the lottery is pick 3 and pick 4 is basically just running numbers.
Yeah,
but it's not like it's not mob controlled; it's state controlled. And it's wild that, like, it's legal for the mob to do it, but when the state gets a hold of it, it's okay now. But
and we didn't cover news this week, but GameStop. I mean, the stock market does the same thing.
Yeah, stock market craziness.
So,
well, and the thing is, like, guys on Reddit did because, like, like they almost like they robbed a drug dealer. Like, they kind of that was basically what they did because. Like the people of the hedge fund group, I don't see anybody really feeling that sorry for them.
It was like the neighborhood association robbed the neighborhood's shitty drug dealer. It's like the people took the power back.
Yeah, this movie is great. That the fight scene, as we were talking about with the husband, is it the husband and wife, or are they just living together?
Just a mistress or something.
Yeah, but man, that was a crazy ass fight scene. And let's see what else. I guess there was not. I feel like after watching it now, I can't think of more than like 20 minutes of worth of the movie. Like it really, to me, just kind of like condensed after watching it. There's a lot of like introductions of who the major players are in the story. You mentioned kind of the moving to legitimate business slash illegitimate business. I mean, they have a boardroom where they meet in this movie, and Capone wants to discuss what Bugs is doing on the other side, on the north side of town, and
He's got like regular businessmen in there that
yeah,
aren't like murderers, but they're
reading reports.
yeah.
I found fascinating, but I mean, to run an empire that big, you have to have that sort of stuff. The I liked him a lot. They do a great job of just going through the story. But for some reason, my favorite parts of the movie are everything outdoors. I don't know if it's because I love the set and how they film everything there, but all the scenes outside, the snow coming down, setting up like the neighborhood and the environments. You can see the shakedowns that take place. The guy that you meet the bar owner that's selling. I forget if he's selling Capone's liquor or if he's selling Bugs' liquor, but
Oh, I hated those two guys.
Talking about the beginning.
yeah,
That's George Seagull, I think is his name, and he got a lot of flack, like back in the '60s and '70s. They consider him like a shitty actor, but like he's a perfect prick in this movie.
Yeah,
He's like like when because he just dehumanizes that poor bartender at the beginning, and you're like anyway that doesn't watch this or hasn't seen it yet, but when they say like the day he dies, like he's not gonna survive the end of the movie, you feel somewhat happy. Like it's like, all right, good, we're gonna get that guy.
I wanted him to die like the very first scene where he pretty much dehumanized the entire bar.
Oh yeah, I mean and I guess that's the kind of businessman that did it, and it's weird because it seemed like there's enough of Chicago. I think they said there was like over 2,000 speakeasies back then. It seemed like there'd be enough for everybody to split and be happy with. But ambition and greed, like it's the disease of capitalism.
another person that he didn't get much screen time. He kind of shows up towards the end, but it's the guy that plays the driver.
You talking about Bruce Dern?
He is awesome. He kind of plays like the poor immigrant.
Are you talking about the immigrant that robbed the truck?
Yes. Yeah.
Frank Silver is his name, I believe. And it's one of those weird things. Like, have you guys ever went to Movie Database to like look up somebody, and then like the color of the thing you click on is already changed because you previously looked up somebody you forgot you did.
Yeah.
That dude has been in so much shit. He died in 1970, so this is one of his last movie roles probably. But like he was in all kinds of Western TV shows back in the 50s and 60s. I believe he was on The Untouchables as well. And like I was reading about him, and like he played all kinds of ethnic stereotypes because you couldn't pin him down.
Yeah, when he first showed up, I thought he was black, and I was like, they're talking with this black person, because I figured that they would not treat a black person very kindly in this time frame. But I think he was like really dark. His skin looked really dark at the when he first showed up because of the scene, and he doesn't really look black the rest of the movie. But
well, he's in a Kubrick movie, The Killer. It's the one he did before Killer's Kiss, and I believe he plays a black gentleman in that movie.
Huh.
And then and then Wanted Dead or Alive, he played like a Mexican sheriff. Like that was he was friends with Steve McQueen, but then like they ended up like turning against each other.
Yeah, see a picture of him in Valdez Is Coming, and he's got a giant like sombrero on and everything.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that like you couldn't. He could have played any like ethnic character, and it's pretty cool that like that there was room back then for doing that. Now if somebody tried doing that, they'd get accused of like
God.
Identity hijacking and stuff like that.
Did you see his reason of death?
No, I did not.
Accidental electrocution.
Oh wow,
that sucks. He was from Jamaica. He was born in Jamaica, so that's interesting.
Damn, this guy's all over the map.
Well, it was British West Indies, and yeah, huh?
That's
Oh yeah,
wild.
yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Did y'all spot Jack Nicholson in the movie?
No,
No.
He's in it for a split second. He says one thing at the end of the movie, and this blue. When I read Roger Corman's book a couple years ago, and he and Nicholson were friends, and Nicholson wanted a speaking part, and Corman wanted him to be the guy that was following George Segal around, and but like that guy that follows George Segal around never talks, and I guess Nicholson wanted a talking part because he was in Little Shop of Horrors and The Raven, and so he's only in it for like a split second. He's the dude that's putting the garlic on the bullets.
Yeah.
He's
I didn't even recognize him. I think that whole scene you're so focused on the garlic on the bullets that I didn't even look at the actor.
Yeah, so I mean, if you guys rewatch the movie, like it's a pretty cool Easter egg. And recently departed Dick Miller's in the movie.
Yeah, I was waiting for Dick Miller because I recognized him immediately.
He was a Roger Corman favorite, and he's just one of those dudes that everybody loved having in movies. Most of the Roger Corman alumni, used him in movies too. Like he's in the first Terminator, and I think he might be
popular, his most recognized role.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when I saw Dick Miller, I was like, oh my boy. Yeah, because he comes in like the last 20 minutes of the movie probably.
That's the fake cop.
Yeah, I just pulled a screenshot from Nicholson's cameo, and yeah, you can see it as clear as day once you know who to look for him. But yeah, it's,
Poor old Dick Miller was uncredited.
All right, it's working.
Yep.
All right, I'm sorry, guys. I hope that this is something you can work with this, Derek. If I heard this on the podcast, I'd be pissed off. So hopefully,
I'm just gonna overdub you with like yeah, Dick Miller. Blah, 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 blah. I like Dick Miller. I like Dick Miller in my mouth.
All right. Another Roger Corman alumni was Bruce Dern. Did y'all spotted him, of course, right?
I mean, I can't remember who Bruce Stern is.
Bruce Dern was the guy who had 7 kids, and he's like he's bottle feeding the kid at the beginning of the movie. He's like the mechanic in the garage.
One of the unfortunate victims.
Well, here's the thing. I got pissed off, like as an adult, when I started watching this movie. Like when the narrator said that he had 7 kids, I got pissed off about that. Because, there's no reason on the fucking planet why anybody after a certain period of time should have any fucking kids. That was recklessly irresponsible. And I'm not saying he deserved to die, but, because all those kids were now orphans, or didn't have a father at least. But, how fucking reckless do you have to have that many fucking kids?
Yeah.
But and it's wild too because I was thinking about this too. There's another movie that we all talked when we did our premiere episode when we talked about our top 5 horror movies. Texas Chainsaw Massacre was on all 3 of our list, and St. Valentine's Day Massacre came out like 7 years before that. And there's something I was thinking about while I was showering. In Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they tell you who survives at the beginning, basically that little preamble thing, and they kind of do the similar thing in St. Valentine's Day Massacre, which this is something I was thinking about too. Bruce Dern was in a great movie a couple years ago called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Have you all seen it?
I have not.
No, if I have.
What's wild is that he the difference between St. Valentine's Day Massacre and the movie coming out is about 40 years. It's a little bit about the same difference between, maybe a little bit more, between the Manson killings and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And they both true life stories, both have Bruce Dern in it, which is pretty cool. And I think that Tarantino, it would have been great if he would have had that little well, so and so died on August 11th, 1999, that kind of thing. But I digress.
So I'm not sure if you caught this, but both Bruce Stern and Dick Miller were in the Burbs together, so they got to reunion in that movie.
It's a Joe Dante movie. Joe Dante was one of Roger Corman's best students. But most he's in another double feature that was on the books was the matinee and
Popcorn.
yeah, Popcorn, and I believe Dick Miller is in matinee as well.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah, I recognize Bruce Dern and his older self a lot more.
Well, he's in he's been in the past 3 Tarantino movies. I think he's in Django Unchained. He's in a Hateful Eight, and he's in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's cool because he's Bruce Dern, and his daughter just won an Oscar like last year, Laura Dern. Are y'all familiar with her?
Yeah, I know Laura Dern.
Yeah. She is the product of him and Diane Ladd, who is another fantastic actress. And I believe she was in a gangster movie because once St. Valentine's Day was a hit, and it opened up this like once Corman got a hit, he ran it into the ground. But and what's weird that he said in the book, I believe that he wished he would have had some kind of nudity in St. Valentine's Day Massacre because everybody thought Roger Corman like drive-in movies, and drive-in movies always had you had to have violence and you had to have like simulated sex and nudity because you gotta make all the little boys like Kent like ashamed.
Titties. Titties.
But and the lies by that's a sign of a good movie. Like when you you see the end, you're like that I hit the fast forward button by accident, or
Yeah, it was well paced for sure. I didn't have any issues with the movie at all. The only problem I have, and it's something that comes up to me in it seems like movies of this era, is lighting. I mean, crime. I mean, you're talking 20 years before this and the development of like noir. I mean, it's not a noir picture by any means.
Well, they still have that like stage presence.
Yeah, it's like everything's just like all the lights are on. We're good. Okay, cool. There's no. I mean, that's the only problem I have with it. It's just an aesthetic issue. It just kind of feels like this is definitely a studio and not an apartment somewhere.
Well, and also definitely they're using film cameras, and so they probably had no instant replay, so they had no clue what it was really going to look like in the cameras, and what you see yourself doesn't the same what the camera records. So it's probably hard for them back then to get the lighting perfect without instant replay. But I mean, I guess as time went on, they figured it out.
That's not a problem I have with it. It just kind of like I said, the outside shots are beautiful. I like how they frame the street scenes, and it does take me back to those. I don't know how well represented the garages and stuff are, but all those. I mean, it looks like that's what they did for Boardwalk Empire. It was straight up like, I don't know if they used scenes, on set or if they use the actual places, but like they have a very similar look in Boardwalk Empire too. Just like I said, the garages, it's like they're sharing the set with some other Chicago gangster films. I don't know. I love the look of it. I love the aesthetic. Just those interior shots, the bedroom shots. Like it's just.
The only thing that I disliked about the film, which y'all probably won't like or agree with, is I thought the massacre itself was a little weak. Like I was expecting something, because like the whole movie you have all these people getting killed left and right from different things. Then it's like, okay, here's 6 or 7 guys that get killed all at once, and I was expecting like 20.
Well,
I mean, consider you had people dying left and right leading up to it. It was like, okay, this was, a little bit more than normal, and you had like the big drive-by that could have killed 20 people, but I guess nobody died during that.
Well, I think that I mean, as far as massacres go, like it's not Wild Bunch, but the whole thing about Roger Corman, like his movies, like there's little to no fucking around in them. He's not gonna have an 8 hour masturbatory movie, like about like some fucking, like there's a movie called Satan Tango, I believe, and it's 8 hours long, and it's a Hungarian movie. I own a copy of it, but Roger Corman, his movies, you get in, you get out, and you're like, wow, that was quick, and but that's also what's weird is that like the title kind of gives it's like a movie about Jack the Ripper or like the Titanic. You kind of know what happens.
Yeah.
And it's one of the best titles ever to a movie because it's. There's no. Again, St. Valentine's Day Massacre. All right, this sounds like a romantic comedy.
So I wonder how accurate everything was, because at the very beginning of the film, it has that thing that's like this is the most accurate film. Anything in this movie actually happened. It was, which back then they could probably get away with BSing about that, whereas from like say the 70s or 80s on, it was more like inspired by true events.
No, man, Fargo, they got in trouble for that. Like the Coen Brothers said it was based on a true story.
Yeah,
and and there's somebody went fucking somebody ended up freezing to death because they were looking for the money. That and the thing is that if you really think about it, like that scene in Fargo, nobody would ever know where that money was buried because I won't spoil Fargo for anybody that hasn't seen it, but you should watch Fargo.
Talking about the movie or the show?
Well, yeah, the movie first, then the show, because I guess that but yeah, I don't want to talk about
the money bit of the
where Buscemi's burying the money.
Yeah,
but anyway, that's not important. Boardwalk Empire crossover there. Did you all were you all familiar with the actor that played Bugs Moran, Ralph Meeker?
I think he looks familiar, but
Ralph Meeker was a really cool actor. He's in a great film noir called Kiss Me Deadly. I don't know if you all ever seen that movie, but it's one of the coolest movies ever made. It's from the 50s, and it's almost like a Repo Man 30 years before Repo Man, if y'all ever saw Repo Man.
Yeah.
And he's just this rugged, tough dude. He's always in westerns, and I guess his most famous movie is besides Kiss Me Deadly is another Robert Aldrich movie called The Dirty Dozen, and he's one of Lee Marvin's contemporaries in that movie, which is it's an excellent movie. And Ralph Meeker's one of those actors that probably should have been bigger, but he got stuck in B movie hell. Nobody could think of him playing anything else, but for this movie, it's believable that if Bugs Moran and Al Capone were in the same room together, Ralph Meeker could hold his own with Jason Robards. Which and the thing is, at the end of the movie, where he narrowly escapes, I think that is based on a true story, because I think that was the luckiest break anybody ever had, because they were waiting for a guy dressed like him to go into the garage, and that was going to be a signal. And it's also a brilliant plan. You have the cops go in there and shake everybody down and unarm everybody. Do you have other people come in and the massacre happens, but they're dressed up like gangsters? And then you have the cops hauling everybody else out. It's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, that's it's just the game plan. I remember learning about this, and I don't think you would learn about it in school if it wasn't such a great, awesome plan. Yeah, people die every day in these gangster times, and people are getting peeled off left and right.
Evolving, because there was I guess I'll talk about the first bit I was thinking of, leads in the second, is when they kill, I believe it's the Italian guy. I guess all the guys that are wearing the cigar jackets and stuff, I guess they're Italian, right?
You lost me, Derek.
There's the guys that are, there's the guy that they go in and kill, and in front of the dude's wife.
Oh yeah, that's the guy who was keeping the peace.
Yeah, so I remember reading stuff about how the Italian gangsters and mobsters and stuff like that, and I guess also the American or Irish, whatever, what is represented, wives were off limit. You didn't mess with people's wives, and so they go and they kill this dude, and even though she's like totally a witness, they just leave her be. And if I remember correctly, I believe that the Mexican cartels are the ones that kind of changed that, and they started targeting people's wives and even children, and nothing was off limits there. And then this ties into the plan where I remember some years ago the one of the Mexican cartels like stole a police car, and they had killed somebody, whoever he was irrelevant, but they dressed him up in a police uniform, and they put him in the police car and set it out in the middle of a busy road, and they waited till like the police showed up to investigate it, and they set off a car bomb and killed a bunch of them. It's like mobsters, gangsters, cartel are still up to no good, faking cops and shit.
Well, the reason being, we still have like there's drugs are still criminalized. As long as there's a black market for stuff, there's gonna this is something I was thinking about at work the other night. If like tomorrow is February 1st, right? Like the show will be released on Valentine's Day, but if February 1st, like all drugs were legal, there'd be something else that fought didn't be illegal organs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean they would. I mean, all these people that deal in illicit goods aren't going to just like go get normal jobs. They're going to move on to whatever the next thing is, and I mean, even so, it's like even if they legalize drugs, it's all going to be consumption level, so it's going to be illegal to have large amounts. And
yeah,
I do wonder all the people that are hugely in favor of legalizing everything. Like, what do they think those people are gonna do if they? I don't know what. I guess they think that they're just gonna like go get jobs at McDonald's or something.
Well, if you watch the first season of Boardwalk Empire, like basically the very first episode, they're celebrating prohibition, and because that means that, and it's also cool. Have you all seen Once Upon a Time in America?
No, that's on my list of what things to watch.
Yeah. It's a good movie, but it's kind of like long masturbatory kind of movie too. But one of the bits in the movie is James Wood and De Niro are talking to each other, and they're pissed because like prohibition's been repealed, and they're out of business. Which I mean, like gangsters are still gonna be gangsters. They just change the furniture and the other businessmen.
Well, it's not like they have a resume they can deliver.
Well, it is wild that back then, if you were just motivated and you had a pistol, you can get a job, like being muscle for the mafia.
Well, heck, in this movie, you didn't have the pistol. You just had to be willing to rob a booze truck, and they'll give you the pistol.
Yeah, and then that was one of the more satisfying things too. That like the guy who got slapped around by Ralph Meeker's character. He's the one that kind of set the motion. He invited Moran to the meeting, so which would have been the ultimate revenge. But the sad thing is, they said that he died the day after the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, which it'd been great if they would cover how that happened.
Yeah, but, I thought we'd see that, but
the thing is, Roger Corman's rules of the movie, the monster's dead, the movie's over. And I guess the monster, that they got slayed, was the actual massacre. Because, I mean, the massacre happened, and then, there's 2 more minutes of movie, and then they go to credits. I mean, there's no big fucking epilogue. There's no...
going to all the funerals and shit. The one thing that kind of sucked was that there was a couple guys there that kind of didn't deserve it, because you had you had the mechanic guy there, then you had the guy that just liked hanging out with the mobsters but didn't really do anything. I mean, they're both probably, shitty people anyways, and
well, that one guy that was taking care of his wife, and I don't know why it always tickled my dad laughed, and when I've been thinking about my dad a lot lately, that scene reminded me of it, where he's saying, "All right, honey, I'll see you later," and he puts the butter back. He takes it off the plate and puts it back on the stick of butter. Puts it in the fridge because he's trying to save money. That always made my dad laugh hysterically. I don't know why, but like I started laughing about that, not because of the scene, not that's particularly funny, but my dad thought it was funny. Because this is another one of those movies that my mom and dad had no problem us watching when we were like little. We'd be in the living room watching this on Valentine's Day, and no problem at all. But yeah, I'm glad you all liked the movie. I was afraid that but I watch this movie. I watch both these movies every year around Valentine's Day. I didn't do it last year because COVID and dealing with a sick cat and everything like that. I didn't have the concentration, but I felt good last night watching both these movies back to back.
I feel like, outside of it happening, the event happening on Valentine's Day, it is not a Valentine's Day movie per se. But My Bloody Valentine does.
Hey, wait a second. We're gonna have puppy breaks there, buddy. Do you know the actual Valentine's story? It's set up like in a horrible tradition. It's like everything else in our lives, like London Bridge falling down and Ring Around the Rosies. I think Valentine, the actual saint, had his heart ripped out. So it's not it got hallmarked over the years. Now it's a cute holiday that you buy shit that's gonna expire in a week and a half. Where flowers are gonna die soon.
Well, just like Christmas. We all saw the Goldberg.
That Deli Knife?
It was the history of Christmas.
But so My Bloody Valentine, it's set in a small coal mining town. It's been 20 years since the incident, I guess would be the best way to describe it. But does the incident? It's a miner that does he go crazy?
What happened? They touch on it briefly. What happened was they were underground mining, and back then, if they used to have canaries in the coal mines, and the canary fell over dead, it's time to get out of there because the air was poison, and too much of that, and a spark would ignite it, and I think that's what happened. And the guys that were supposed to be monitoring it were like, "Fuck it, we're gonna cut out early. Fuck these coal miners."
Yeah.
And then and then they got trapped under there because it's a coal mine, and coal mining's the most dangerous job you could ever have besides dynamite juggling. So many things that could kill you. And I think what ended up happening, there's 5 dudes that were trapped down there, and there's only one dude left over. And when they found him, he was cannibalizing. He cannibalized the other people.
Yeah.
And he went crazy because I guess that's what flesh does to people. I don't know. I've never had it.
Sure you haven't.
Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge.
But then from there, does the Valentine start every year afterwards?
No. He came back to
Harry. Put him in a mental institution for 1 year?
Yeah. Well, he broke out on Valentine's Day and he murdered the guys that that abandoned the coal miners for the party, which kind of makes sense. Why, if you ever have a grudge, it would be against assholes like that were like, well, hey, you could have let us know what was going on.
Yeah.
But the town, they had a ban on Valentine's. It's sort of like the ban on dancing and Footloose and the ban on Halloween parties and the Halloween movies later on. It hadn't filled in the sequels they banned Halloween because all that horrible shit happened.
Well,
which kind of makes.
I don't think they necessarily banned Valentine's. They just banned their yearly dance.
Oh, yeah.
With the Valentine's Day dance is the big thing in the town, and they banned that.
So I loved the killings. Any slasher film, if you don't have great killings, you don't have a movie.
Yeah.
I love the killings. The cast kills me in this movie, and I'm sorry. I'm apologizing in advance, Will, because I felt like St. Valentine's Day Massacre was light years ahead of My Bloody Valentine. I don't know what it was. I was really wanting to love it, but the cast this killed it for me. Okay. The kids, the miners, and they're girls. Like
The minors.
Yeah, the minors. The sheriff and is it Mabel?
Yes.
Yeah, like I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that little subplot, and I always love the crazy, like doomed guy at the bar.
Death Curse.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, and I really like. Is it Hollis? Hollis is my favorite of the main like cast.
That's the dude with the mustache.
That's the guy with the greatest mustache ever, Derek.
Yeah. I swear I was like, is that John Candy with an awesome mustache?
I mean, that mustache does a lot of that, and that Moosehead beer do a lot of lifting in this movie.
Yeah. But now Howard was kind of awesome too.
That was Howard,
like the prankster that would like.
Oh my god, he's so. It annoyed the piss out of me.
Okay, there's some backstory to this movie. Well, first of all, like
you hear like bees.
There's somebody out there with a leaf blower.
Oh, okay.
Which you accuse me of peeing, and now you accuse me of playing with bees. What is this? Okay, the backstory of this movie. Paramount produced, distributed the movie, and what happened with Paramount? The year before that, they released Friday the 13th, and Friday the 13th made a lot of movie, but it pissed off a lot of people. Because, they thought it was one of those movies that was corrupting everybody and it's going to make a generation of serial killers. Which it didn't. As far as I can tell, my only thing that I know about is Jeffrey Dahmer. And Jeffrey Dahmer was obsessed with two movies. One was Alien, which is kind of it's a horror movie, but it's not a slasher. Yeah. And the other one was Return of the Jedi. So, I mean, those are two movies he watched all the time.
I mean, those serial killers are usually obsessed with just random movies like To Kill a Mockingbird or whatnot. They're usually not slasher movies that they emulate.
Okay, so what happened was the MPAA went on a fucking tear, and they wanted all kinds of okay, well, you want to release this movie, it's gonna get X rating, and you can't advertise. So the editors got happy with the scissors. We were talking off a camera microphone earlier about the quality difference between the actual gore scenes and the actual film.
Yeah.
It's restored, but they were never digitally remastered. I don't think. I think they have a problem where they can't do it all the way. And it sucks too. On the DVD version, there's a little disclaimer thing. And the director says, look, we tried our best to restore it. There is a quality difference, but they're the censors is beyond our control, but the gore in this movie is fantastic. I mean, I don't know. I guess watching Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 my entire life, gore doesn't really gross me. There's some grossed up parts in it, but it's more funny than anything because there's that lady gets killed in the shower, we'll get to that when we get to it. But so when they came up with the movie, it was supposed to be a cheap ripoff of Friday the 13th, from what I understood, and the only place they could film it was in Canada for a lower budget because the Canadian dollar was worth less than it is the American dollar. So that's why all the actors sound weird, because they're all Canadians. This is probably, besides any Cronenberg movie, this is probably the best Canadian movie of all time, in my opinion. And Moosehead is a Canadian beer, and back then, any kind of local beer, rolling paper, they love doing product placement because no other legitimate movies would do it. That's you're not gonna see Pepsi or Coke or Adidas in My Bloody Valentine movie.
Yeah.
But
that's what, and all the characters sound kind of weird because they have that North Canadian French accent.
I somehow did not catch this accent whatsoever.
I just assumed that it was a cheap B movie and that they weren't going to have actors you would ever see again in it.
Well, the actors, they popped up in other, they all had careers afterwards. And I believe that the town that they actually shot it, like the movie in, was actually called Valentine's Bluffs. The fucking leaf blower guy.
I love it.
What the fuck is he leaf blowing right now?
I don't know.
Leaf blowing snow or something?
It sounds like the killer's behind you, Will. That's what it sounds like. It sounds good.
He'd be doing me a favor.
No, I think he's in that. What's that terrible movie where they put him in the Wicker Man? I think he's in. Well, the remake. I think Will's in the Wicker Man. It's like, please.
But yeah, as mentioned, like I love the death scenes. And that's what I kind of assumed, because they're pretty horrific. Like, the
best one is the guy that gets it under the jaw.
Oh my god!
Spike from the pick, and he goes under his jaw and comes out and pops his eyeball out.
Oh my god! And then this
genius.
And just dragging him across the field to hide the body. That's. And I was the entire time I'm kind of. I missed the end. I don't know if we're gonna spoil it or not because people do watch it, but I wasn't really thinking that far ahead in terms of like who is behind the mask. But
they do a good job making you believe it's the guy that came back to town the whole time.
TJ?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of odd.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Tipping his shoulder and.
Yeah.
But yeah, the parts of this movie that I love, where once again the setting, I just love the small town, the environment. They have the dance set up. It's 20 years and the current day is 20 years past the murders, right? Sheriff gets a Valentine with a heart in it, a human heart, so he knows that it's about to go down.
I forgot like one of the probably the nastiest deaths was the old lady. That was pretty awful looking.
Yeah.
You got like a burnt up corpse and a dryer that's still spinning around as they open the door.
Well, there's a lot of creative kills in this, and like and there's not for a slasher movie. There's not. Again, there's no fucking around in it. I mean, like there's there's subplots and stuff like that, and like you get attached to certain characters, like that the Hollis guy, like the fight between the two male characters, Axel and TJ, gets broken up by that one, by him. Yeah. He's able to hold both those motherfuckers apart. And it was like this guy he should have been like the last survivor. I think that's the only problem they fucked up with, because that mustache.
Yeah,
I'll go on record. It's better than Daniel Day-Lewis's in Gangs of New York.
Yeah, I was thinking for some reason you were saying that. Well, we already talked about him getting his, I guess, but I was thinking that you were saying that the killer had the mustache. The entire time I'm like, I can't wait for this mask to come off. Like, I was anticipating the stash that you were talking about, and then I didn't know it was
there's a lady that we work with, and her husband has an awesome mustache like that. And she, and like me and my old boss James, and now me and my buddy Nate that works there with me, like she doesn't understand why we're so obsessed with it. Like, dude, that mustache is so awesome. So like we're always referencing her husband's mustache. And
there's I was we were talking before we started recording. I called my mom earlier this morning, and I was telling her about what we were going to do, and of course she was laughing because she gets a kick out of the perverted son of a bitch her son is, and she told me a crazy coal miner story about our family. Half our family's from Chicago, the other half is from Kentucky, and there's a lot of coal miners on my dad's side, and they had the little thing where you ride down in this movie, that little sled thing, like you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Well, they had my uncle died in one of those, because it was kind of big in My Bloody Valentine. I think that that's kind of exaggerate. That's a coal mine's wet dream of itself in a movie, like the coal mine that's in My Bloody Valentine, because they have room for the cameras and stuff like that. But usually the slide, you'd have to lay flat back and you couldn't move because you're going down a very, very steep hill, and they pull you up at the end of your shift. Well, I think my mom said that he either had a heart attack or he had a stroke, And usually, if you have a heart attack or a stroke, you start getting in the fetal position. Like you try to, your body gets fetal position to protect itself. Well, he was going down the slide and he started raising up, and he basically decapitated himself.
Jesus.
Which is fucking crazy that, like, and my mom's just now telling me this fucking story.
Should have waited till you were older.
So, I mean, like, it's weird that, like, there's actually a weird personal connection with both these movies that involve my family. And I just found out about that one.
Horror movie quality death for you.
Well,
explains everything.
Well, the thing is, like, if you read about coal miners back in, like the Depression era, during the St. Valentine's Day Massacre era, like, it was nothing for you. If us three went to work, like, what'd you hear about Derek? What happened? Mine collapsed on him. We don't know if we're going to get him out or not.
Yeah, a big rock fell on his head and his brain splattered all over the wall. Like, oh, that's neat.
Or it's like, the air became unbreathable and we couldn't get the elevator car down the shaft quick enough. And it was nothing for, like, you to go to work and come home, like, which probably didn't help because when alcohol was illegal, that, like, you just wanted to come home and sit in a dark room and drink and think about your friend that just died at work.
Yeah.
But did you all have a favorite kill in the movie?
Well, of course, the old man setting up the dummy.
You were just waiting for it, right? You're just like,
yeah. I love it because he's like, and he keeps. So the guy sets up like a dummy. So when the door opens, there's a guy in like the coal miner's outfit, and a little arm comes up the pick, which is really fucking dangerous for one. Probably a little bit slow, but I love that he's like, he keeps opening it. He's like, and he closes it, and like that's the best acting in the whole movie. He starts to walk away, and it's so like cartoony. He's like, and he's like, and he turns around to go do it one more time, and then he gets bamboozled.
Well, a thing about slasher movies that they don't get enough credit for. Slasher movies they're funny in a dark, like, because especially our generation of children, we grew up with reruns of Three Stooges and Warner Brothers cartoons, and the violence is like, besides the gore part, it's Looney Tunes kind of humor.
Yeah.
And Barry, did you have a favorite death?
I'd have to probably agree with Derek, but I mean, anytime you can kill a person with a hot dog, you have to.
Like I said, that's got to be the first movie with like an in pot with hot dog water or camera, because I love it because the camera's from like below. The dude gets drowned in like a giant pot of boiling hot dogs, and then they have the camera from below, and you see his face like, "Arr!" There's like hot dogs floating around. It was so fucking funny.
Well, plus I like the detail in that scene where the guy's face is blistering.
Yeah,
I mean, it's such, and the MP, they thought that was gonna like fucking ruin kids.
The part that confused the shit out of me was the scene with the couple that sneak off. He goes to get the beer, and they're doing the whole like, we hang all of, is it all their costumes, all their uniforms?
Yeah. I would say their uniforms. I don't think they go down and like, let's dress up like miners.
Okay, their uniforms. But like, why the fuck are they hanging from the ceiling? Like, is that?
I think that's a question I talked to my mom about, and my mom, she goes, well, what they probably did, they probably had to hose them down, like the outside to the inside, and then they hung up to dry, but they probably still had to, like, take care of other businesses because there's not a whole lot of room to work around in coal mines.
Yeah, it looks
again,
like normal practice. Yeah.
And their thing is just like, okay, well, we'll air these suits out while the people wear the next day's suits, that kind of shit.
I'm seeing an old picture. It's like black and white old, and it looks like a community area. There's like all these benches, and all these people are sitting around like a giant break area, and then above them is all their uniforms hung up, which you'd think would drip down on them, but I mean, you're covered in black suit and getting the black lung. So what do you care about a little bit of water dripping on you?
Well, also that's something that's kind of weird. Like the weirdest part of the movie to me, and I guess it's like realistic, but like, wouldn't you all feel weird if you all had to take a shower at work, like before you could like leave?
Yeah.
Like here you are, you're standing like ass cheek to ass cheek with some guy, and you're just trying to like, I don't know.
Of course, I'm willing to bet. I'm willing to bet that scene's fairly authentic because they're all just kind of cutting up, and there's no like uncomfortableness. But, I guess you most it seems like most miners are lifers, so you're with these people all fucking day. You have to trust each other, and it's a dangerous and scary job. And so I guess that it's probably not a big deal like they show in the movie. Of course, nowadays they probably have individual showers, and
it's like a brotherhood. It definitely feels like a brotherhood. And then they're just like goofing off on each other, and testosterone's rolling high, and
and they're washing each other's fronts and
with their mouths. It's weird.
Yeah, and the one dude like uses his mustache to watch.
Well,
so what was your favorite death, Will?
See, here's the thing, man. That opening kill is great because I love it when slasher movies start out with a kill because that gets people in the mood. Then like usually like most of the time it's a flashback kill, but this is one of the few movies where they save the flashback for later on in the movie. But that first kill, like and I don't know what it is, but like the girl just like taking off the miner outfit, and like if there's ever a case to have nudity in a movie, that seems like it should have been there, but I guess they didn't want to shoot what they eat and combine sex and murder in the same thing. But that's my favorite kill. I like the hot dog one a lot. The miner one's good. There's not a bad kill in a movie.
Yeah, I figured your favorite would be the girl in the shower where like the water's coming out of her nose and mouth.
Well, that's a good one, but like, her and that one girl that became catatonic, I felt really sorry for her. Like because I can't imagine being that scared that like that you would just basically just stop moving and scream. Because it seemed like to be counterproductive if something was chasing after you.
Oh, it happens.
Well, yeah, but I just like I don't know. Maybe it's the coward in me. Like you'd find my footprints on any woman and child that got in my way. If you're in a wheelchair, go fuck yourself. I'm getting the fuck out of there.
That's the thing too that throws me off about this movie, and maybe it's because the guys and it's their lifestyles. I'm not from Eastern or Western Kentucky, but like. Who the fuck's like, let's take this party into the mine? That's the craziest shit I've ever heard of. Like, no, if either of you worked in the mine, I'd be like, you should get another job. You should you should leave town. I'm not going to join you down in it.
I think they stuck to like safe area, generally safe areas. Even there was that one part where like, oh, this is the abandoned part, but it's kind of like we had that party at our place. I think it was one of the Halloweens, and like, oh, let's go. This is when we lived in behind our house was the cemetery. It's like, oh, let's go to the cemetery. Then we also went into the abandoned house next door. I could see where like the girls would be like, oh, let's go do this for a scare and fun. And you guys are in there day in and day out, and you're totally comfortable with it. But we're not. And
this is different than like an abandoned house, though. This is like a place where, as you talked about, like their friends are dying off because of the dangerousness of the job. And yeah, you're right. I mean, they're not going in the depths because they're not, they're not putting suits on and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, they're all probably real comfortable with it. And I mean, let's say you're also not, in that town where it's like being a mine and being a miner is just like, it is what it is. It's not like weird or taboo or scary.
Well, it's sort of like I imagine if you live by train tracks, the novelty of like squishing like coins would probably wear off after a couple hundred of them. Like going down the mine, like when I leave work, as much as I love my job and I love the people I work with, I'm afraid to drive by because I don't want to like chase me like outside. Go, hey, can you come back in and work for a couple hours? Like, I can't imagine like
it's not like you work enough as it is.
It's like, hey, You know, it'd be fun on our day off on Valentine's Day where we're having a dance, where we're drinking and playing pool. Let's go down to where you work, and like when it's dark, and you know it's dangerous enough, and like you have to worry about collapses and the air turning into gas and sparks because the pickaxe like creates a spark on it can ignite the place, and not to mention the fact that you're slowly killing yourself with black lung. Let's have fun and go down and fuck around in the dark.
I was saying at the same time, wasn't the whole premise that they want to throw a party, but they had to throw it somewhere where they wouldn't get caught? And I think the one guy was it CJ or who was it that first brought up the mines, and everyone's like, "You're an idiot." And then they go to that one place near the mine, I guess. And so, I mean, part of it I think was they need to do some place where they wouldn't get caught because it's such a small town that I'm sure the sheriff could canvass the whole town in like 3 minutes.
We talked about the sheriff getting the heart.
Yeah.
And Mabel working on the big party and the decorations and all that. And then once the heart comes in, and then I think he kind of like tries to keep it quiet. And then Mabel gets killed, and he's just like, we can't fuck around anymore. So that's when he outlaws the parties. And he's got deputies, I guess, kind of going around town, like trying to find parties to like break it up because the killer has said, parties, it's over. And so the kids, I guess, had planned to go to the mine, to the building or the whatever they have in the area.
I think it's like a union hall or something like that.
That makes sense, yeah.
Like I don't know if coal miners had unions or not.
I would hope they probably didn't.
I know.
Well, the thing is, Matewan and the Ludlow Valley Massacre or Ludlow County Massacre, they're both about coal miners that ended up like they tried to start a union, but like I don't know if they had that in Canada, but they never really addressed it as them being in Canada anyway. But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, like that Mabel and sheriff thing, like that was kind of like like it's kind of like you feel kind of bad, like when he gets the box of hearts after she's already dead, which is a nice touch because usually you don't get feelings like that in a horror movie.
Yeah,
I thought that maybe it was like a whole setup and that like the candies are going to be filled with gore or something. What's funny is what you're just talking about watching it because of course if the sheriff had just like told everybody what was going on at the very beginning, they probably wouldn't have thrown the party that would have led to. But then again, the killer would have been on the loose forever and would just be biding his time. Huh?
Well, Derek, here's this thing. We have this thing called COVID, and we've been trying to keep people locked up. Like, and if anybody ever questions the judgment of like people in slasher movies, I refer you to America in 2020.
Well, yeah, that's basically what I was going for.
I'm sorry.
At first, the cops like, oh, let's not tell anybody, and let's just go on as normal. And I'm like, oh, there's our fucking COVID thing. And the thing when you're watching the movie, you're like, they would never fucking do this. Like nobody's that dumb. And fucking years later, after we should know all these lessons, we fucking do it. Where the fucking sheriff that's not shutting down, or the mayor or whatever that's not shutting down the beach in Jaws. But he does actually. But then after Maybell dies, he still doesn't do the right thing and tell everybody. But at the same time, he does shut down. He tries to prevent the tragedy without, I guess, scaring the masses. So he's not totally at fault. But those rascally kids just had to have their party.
Well, also, as far as parties go, like it didn't seem like that was. It seemed like they were having more fun at the bar earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
Why didn't they just go to the bar?
well, they didn't have hot dogs at the bar.
That's true.
Well, I guess hot dogs are a game changer.
Yeah. And then they found that boiled heart in there. That was pretty good.
Well, do you guys like hot dogs?
Oh, that's annoying. Just take this out.
Love hot dog.
See, I'm disgusted by them. Like, it's weird too because Chicago, being a Chicago lad for first fourth of my life, like we were supposed to have the best hot dogs on the planet, and I can't stand the fucking things.
You don't like hot dogs or Chicago style hot dogs or
just hot dogs in general. Just the oh god, what the fuck's wrong with you guys?
I mean, we all know that they're full of nothing but shit, but they're still delicious.
I mean, what's not that you didn't? It's not organic. And,
Yeah, anyone that eats McDonald's hamburgers.
it's processed. This, that. So what the hell? Probably ate out like a human arm. It's fine. The Will, is someone trying to get somebody's attention in your neighborhood?
What's going on?
I'm hearing like horn. Am I crazy, D?
Yeah, it sounds like a high pitched.
I thought we had another person in your neighborhood going bonkers stuff outside.
Can you? I'm gonna mute it. Can y'all hear it?
Not when you're muted, huh?
No, it's you. It must be something that's going on your end. But
It's not real loud, so it's not a huge deal.
I don't know. I can't hear it.
but
I don't hear it
yeah,
now,
I mean,
but
what's really funny too. I mean, you'd have to kind of do this with the cast, is to make it flow better. All the kids are what, early 20s, and I'm sure I mean, to work together in a mine, I'm sure there's kids people of various ages in the mine.
14 and up, pretty much.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure. We're the 12-year-olds that are working in the mine, but yeah, I feel like a couple 40-year-olds in the mix would like screw everything up and like keep it from partying. I'd say for one, but
well, they had wasn't there like an older guy that was always like yelling at them and breaking up the fights and stuff that really wasn't at the party in the mines, if I remember correctly.
I can't recall.
Yeah, he was the guy who goes, "You're not gonna fight in my mind."
Yeah,
yeah, that guy.
So yeah, I think there's probably older people there, but they weren't really, in the group that like wash each other's fronts and backs in the showers and got the mustache rides and all that.
The guy was a pimp, and he probably, arguably, like he had the best looking girl in that movie. Like,
I remember
that one that like, and also like, did y'all when the miners came into like the dance place, the dance hall? That guy picked the girl up by her head. Did you all notice that?
To kiss her? I was like, holy
yes.
shit.
That doesn't. If you did that in a wrestling ring, like the referee, like if you did it in UFC, you probably get disqualified. I mean, not the kissing part, but picking somebody up by their head.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that, but I remember watching it. And I was like, holy shit! Like, there's no way that can't be like somewhat dangerous. Like, this small girl, he grabs her on both sides of her head and picks her up. Lifts her probably at least a foot off her feet to kiss her, and that seemed to be like their thing. But it looked pretty not good.
It looked like if something went wrong, that nobody would believe that guy's story. What do you mean you need to break her neck, you asshole? What do you mean pick her up by her head, kiss her?
He's like, I always do that.
Like, get him back in the car. Now, there's a remake of this movie that I haven't seen. I own it, and I've got the 3D glasses. Have y'all seen a remake? Apparently, well, they from what I heard, the people that made the movie, usually when they do remakes, they try to like pretend that the original one doesn't exist, or they try to like make up like fake motivation for characters and stuff like that. Like if you. They remade the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The guy Friday the 13th, the guy said he based Jason on Rambo, which is bullshit because you're playing Jason. You're just basing it on Jason. He tried to make it sound like it's something else. But the people that made My Bloody Valentine 3D, were the remake, they treated the source material like it was gospel, which is pretty cool. I'm gonna watch it. I'm not gonna do it today because my movie watching constitution isn't what it once was.
There better be like an awesome guy with a mustache in it. That's all I gotta say.
Apparently, there's a guy from one of the Supernatural guys is in it.
Yeah,
and and I like both those guys, and I like them when they do movies. But was gonna say. As far as slasher movies, how do you all think this one stacks up?
Ugh.
I'd say it's one of the better ones.
I feel like of the not adding the big three, I guess. Like not putting those into the not putting Friday the 13th or Halloween or Nightmare. It's I think it's a lot, but like I'd not seen Black Christmas until we did our episode, and Black Christmas feels.
Wait. Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Oh, I'm sorry. Which one? No, I had watched Black Christmas on my own then.
Okay.
And that one is much further down the list. This one is not it's not bad by any means. Like I said, the only problem I really had with it were some of the characters, the cast. I think it goes up there. I think it's probably a top 10 effort for sure. Probably maybe a 5 or a 6 on the list.
What's you, Derek?
Yeah, I mean, I said I don't know like how to rate it, but I'd say it was one of the better ones. But one of the things I liked about it, which they did a little bit, mostly with I think Howard's character, is there wasn't, and I've mentioned this before, like in the Friday 13th, I think is the worst about it. I hate how, like, you just imagine behind the scenes, like, Jason kills somebody, and even though Jason's like a mindless killer, you can evidently behind the scenes it's like, I'm gonna put this person up here so when this door opens they fall out and scare them. Like you have all these dead bodies that pop out in these ridiculous manners that make no sense whatsoever, and there really wasn't that in this movie. Like you had the hot dog guy that he's put in the nearby freezer so you could see where I don't think he was intentioning on getting a goofy scare out of it. It was probably just convenient while he escaped the scene. And I guess Howard was about the only one that, he hung up. Of course, the guy that did it kind of let him loose too. So
I always maintain that, like, this is like one of the best slasher movies ever made. Like, whenever somebody, like, I'm not a big fan of David Lynch's movies. I've watched them all, but I can't figure out like why Blue Velvet's considered a masterpiece.
Same.
While My Bloody Valentine is just considered slasher garbage. Where I had way more fun watching My Bloody Valentine, and and I wasn't frustrated, and I was satisfied when I got done with My Bloody Valentine. But it sucks too because they had a perfect cliffhanger. That there should have been a sequel to My Bloody Valentine. Like, there probably should have been like 3 or 4 of them, like during that slasher cycle. But I think what turned people off is the movie that they saw in theaters, the theatrical cut, that didn't have any of the gore. Gore's half the fun of the slasher movie.
Yeah.
Like, and
especially back then.
Yeah, well, a great example of a horror movie where they cut the balls off of it is the Aliens versus Predator movie. Like, they use, the fight happens, you see the Predator pose, and then you see the Alien pose, then you see, like, the shaky camera, and then, and then, one of them would be dead, but you wouldn't be able to follow what was going on. But, that was their way, to simulate that there's some kind of hardcore action, but...
Yeah.
If you're going to make a horror movie, unless it's a ghost movie, it shouldn't be PG-13.
But they also never explained what happened to the original killer guy, right? The guy had the lady looking into it, and
no, he died. When they're the sheriff gets a phone call, and they said that he was found dead like 5 years before, like that.
Okay, I missed that part.
Yeah.
One thing I want to mention, because I'm looking at some of these pictures from the movie. So the girl that survives, CJ / the other guy's girlfriend, in some scenes, she is like a complete dead ringer for a young Meryl Streep. Looks like exactly like her. I'll put that up, I guess, when we do the video, but you could almost mistake her for a young Meryl Streep.
On our Lost episode that we did, happy birthday, Matt, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
we talked about the acting in Night of the Living Dead, and like and there's some campy parts because they weren't professional actors, and like for My Bloody Valentine, I really didn't have any problems with anybody. I mean, even though it's fun to make fun of the guy with the mustache, it's a memorable character. And the Death Curse guy, the bartender, that that's about the only overacting in the movie that's kind of kind of takes you out of it. But
Yeah.
the kill makes up for it.
The like I said, the problem I have are just actual characters themselves, and then the other problem that I had with it was most slashers. I'm trying to think going through most of the slashers that I enjoy are. I mean, obviously you're gonna have here is your count, and every murder you're gonna -1, but I feel like it's the larger cast of the high end slasher movies. It's just like it seems like a bigger cast that I'm used to, and I feel like for that, some of the characters weren't fleshed out enough. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to do what they do in the story without telling more, I guess, personal stories, anecdotes about these people. But I don't really get a sense of I'm like as freaked out as Laurie Strode is, and I'm hoping that she gets out of it. But in this scenario, I'm like, the guy has a cool mustache. I enjoy him. He breaks up fights. He's just a cool guy. He's just a nice guy, and he's got a hot chick, and he's a big dude. So I'm like, good for him. Good for him. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's you talking about the killer because
I'm talking about Hollis.
it's also who?
Mustache guy. Hollis.
Mustache.
Yeah.
But like he's a cool character, but like I don't know really much more about him, and I don't know. I was wanting more character development for those guys, and then that guy that's the fucking jokester just kills me. He's
Like where would you put it in though?
That's the part I don't know. Like the movie, how they make the movie is how they make it. I mean, that's just I don't know. I feel like there could be.
They should have done like St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Like every time we meet a new character, it's like this is Hollis, blah blah blah. Like he will die later on in this movie, even though he has an awesome mustache. He has a loving mother and father at home.
Like maybe if the movie started with him on like a weekend trip.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
That also goes into like what Will said. Is it's kind of nice that it just goes straight into it. You don't have a 30-minute build up before the first kill.
No.
It's like, hey, this is a slasher film. It's not a fucking wank around and find out everybody's backstory that they're just gonna die soon.
I'm not requiring a movie that has an intermission. Like I'm not needing like a 10-minute like orchestral score attached to it.
Yeah.
Like maybe an extra 15 minutes or.
I mean, you had them in the shower. Is that not enough for you? And look at that picture I sent y'all real quick. Does that not look like dead on like young Meryl Streep?
I gotta look this up. I don't have it open here. Let me.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks.
You can 100% look at that and be like, I didn't know Meryl Streep's in this movie because she looked exactly like that when she was younger.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's not only right with that. I think cutting out the fucking stupid jokester. Like the people that are that stupid don't have friends. Like they're like, let's not invite that guy anymore.
Well, I mean, he kind of because he was the one that didn't have a girlfriend. Was he the one that was like trying to flirt with a girl at the beginning, and she was like, "Leave me alone"?
Yeah, he had no real game. Like.
I mean, he was that guy. Like he was, part of the crew. It was, in my opinion, he was the guy that it's like, okay, he's part of the crew. We would like to not invite him, but then he would know he got together. It's a small town. He just get pissed off. But
they forgot. They made a flyer and they put it up in the break room, and he's like, shit,
yeah.
I was gonna see it, and then he shows up and they're like, I don't know.
He's that classic trope of like the prankster and the little nerdy shit that that winds up dying.
Like he's snorting Coke, like Coca-Cola. He's fucking hysterical.
He almost got out. He almost survived because I'd assume that he died near where his body was found.
I get maybe if they had changed the party setup scenes. If you just, it's not that much. I know it's not that much of the movie, but if you took some of that out and like, because I mean, to me, the Mabel storyline, you're like, she's kind of, they're both kind of older people, like they're kind of dating, kind of, they're talking, and so you kind of get that from them, but I mean, the only
You
scene,
just have a sick obsession with world building. It's like this is a slasher film set in a mine, and you're like, I kind of want to know, what the candy store in town is like. Like, I wish they would visit the candy store. We'd hear their backstory, and
but
it's
here's the
like
thing,
it's a slasher movie.
but you
Yeah,
got
dude.
Halloween, to me,
He,
is the bona fide number one, carries the trophy around, best slasher film to me of all time.
Yeah,
And half the movie is Lori set up, but there's only Lori and really and her friend in the Loomis subplot. So like the cast is much smaller. So to have the size of the cast they have, I
yeah.
don't need the full. I don't need like fucking Reservoir Dogs, Mr. Brown, Tommy and his girlfriend, John and Alice. Like I don't need the full on backstories. But it's like a little bit more because I can give a shit less if they died or not.
well, here's the thing. Like one of the things that My Bloody Valentine's has that most slashers don't have, like because the red herring of who the killer was. Like the first time you watch this movie, you think it's one person that it turns out to be somebody that doesn't. Then you go back and you try to like figure out how do they do that, and if you watch it a second time, you're like okay, that makes sense. There's no bullshit in it. But they had a pretty credible like love triangle like story going on in it, and I think most of the character stuff was that Barry, because as much as I can watch a whole movie about that mustache guy. Like if they showed him okay, he got out of a shower and then he's in front of the mirror and he's combing his mustache, he's putting a wax on, and you see him what he has for breakfast. I'd be fascinated with that. But nobody thought about that. They didn't realize how awesome that mustache was.
I love the idea of someone writing like a 2 hour movie. It's a prequel to this. This is called Hollis, and it's like, what's this movie? And you don't really know it all. Like he just goes to the mine. It's like he gets.
It's like a 2 hour movie of just like this guy's normal life, and then it ends at the very beginning of My Bloody Valentine.
He picks up his you see a previous girlfriend he had that accidentally broke her neck. So he served some time in jail. It's like there's some Oz moments there, and then
he unfortunately died in 2007.
Oh,
at the age of 51.
That sucks. That's pretty young. Wait, 51. So 2007 minus 1981. So that's 29 plus 7, 36. How old was he? 51?
Yep, he was born in 56. That's what you're trying to.
No, I'm trying to figure out how old he was.
yeah,
51.
Yeah, he was 24.
When was he born? 56?
Uh-huh.
So he'd been 24, 25 when he did the movie. Oh, yeah, I was trying to do the math, like how old he was in the movie.
Yeah, it was
Well,
funny.
and also,
Go ahead.
No, just most slasher movies are about teens that are being stalked.
Yeah.
These are grown-ups that pay rent and have legitimate jobs.
Yeah.
They're not babysitters. I mean, the babysitter's not a legitimate job. It's just the chances of a coal mine collapsing on you when you're babysitting are something nil.
Well, yeah, it's like at first when I'm watching it, because I'm so used to that, I'm like, are these people supposed to be in high school? Like, what the fuck? Like, this is like worse than normal. Because I don't know if you've seen those memes where they show your regular high schooler in a movie, and it's like Taylor Lautner, like all buff and stuff, but like 30 years old, But no, also, they're supposed to. I mean, they're obviously over 21 because they're all drinking. But yeah, they're. I mean, the one guy that I assume they're all pretty close in age, and then CJ, they say went off for a year or so to try to make it in Hollywood or something weird. So yeah, they're all supposed to be in their 20s.
They said he went out west, but also to square that circle with Buscemi, there's that 30 Rock meme where he's carrying a skateboard. He says, "Welcome, fellow kids." Like we talk about yeah.
Yeah.
So just to square, that's our third Buscemi reference of the episode.
You know he's talking about, Barry?
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, everything about it's fine. Like the I need to watch more slashers. I guess is a big thing because I've seen the big franchises. Um, in terms of like past big franchises, maybe I like Sleepaway Camp, which I don't know if that's a big franchise to you all or not, but I like Sleepaway Camp 1 over this. But there's several
What?
movies that I've seen that do not have this together. Yeah, I like Sleepaway Camp.
So the real question is,
Well, I like Sleepaway Camp. It also has another. I think that's the other movie that has a hot dog pot killing in it. But you remember that?
That's a cauldron. That thing is massive.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest. Have you seen it, Derek?
what?
Have you seen Sleepaway Camp?
I don't recall.
Well, it's not a camp, like of course, but like the one of the cooks is in the kitchen, and it's the biggest pot ever. I mean, it's about 4.5 foot.
Like they had to like weld that on site. There's no way someone carried that thing. It's huge.
And they have a similar kill in My Bloody Valentine. Yeah, I don't know if you can find it or not, but it's funny as shit. You see it, and you're like, "What the fuck's that for?" But then you automatically just think, "Okay, we know that somebody's gonna end up in that fucking thing."
You've never seen Sleepaway Camp, Day?
I'm not looking it up. I know what it is. If I've seen it, it's been a long time. Okay,
Yeah.
what the hell? Did they make that for
You
the
see it?
movie? Like I thought y'all were gonna say it was like big and around, but it's like 3 feet tall.
Like,
It
it had to be like a fire
makes no
under it.
sense.
There's no way that they had like unless it covered the entire stove. There's no way to heat that thing.
There's, I can't. There's no way that's that's a real pot. That had to have been something else they put handles on.
That's
Factory.
the
That's
thing
like a
is,
factory pot.
it's a mid-80s slasher, Derek,
Yeah,
and and that movie. I don't. You said you never saw it, right?
I don't think so. Like I know what
Well-
it's all about because I've seen. It's
Look,
been spoiled.
okay, well that's the thing. Like, aside from the end, that pot's the most notorious fucking thing in the movie. And they have like a 15-minute baseball scene, which is like I don't know. Maybe that's what you're talking about, character development, like why Barry, but like I'm glad that My Bloody Valentine didn't have it because there's a lot of fucking around that happens in Sleepaway Camp. Now, Sleepaway Camp 2 is fucking brilliant.
I've seen
Like that's
I want to say I saw all three 20 years ago. I think
Yeah.
I rented all three of them, but I remember definitely. I mean, I've seen the first one over and over again, but I need to watch the other two.
the third one's okay, but that second one, like, that's one of those few cases like Godfather 2 or Aliens or Terminator 2 where the sequel's better than the original. Because I mean, like it's almost like the very first Silent Night, Deadly Night, where you spend a lot of time with the slasher. Sleepaway Camp 2, you're with her the entire movie, and it's great. But yeah, that's like I can't sing the praises of My Bloody Valentine enough. This is if we had to do like a best movie list of 1981, this would probably be like top 2 or 3 for me. It's a great movie. I'm happy to watch it every year on Valentine's Day. I hope to make it a tradition for everybody else. Instead of everybody watching fucking like shitty romantic comedies, we watch a classic gangster movie and a classic slasher movie.
It's a shame that a shitty emo band had to come up and take the name.
Yeah, that is one of the more frustrating things. We were talking about a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about our 1994 music. The band live, it's kind of hard to look up their stuff.
Yeah,
It's kind of hard to look up information about My Bloody Valentine and not get like that horrible band.
shitty band.
And I know that, like, if anybody hears this and is a fan of My Bloody Valentine, you're wrong. It's a horrible band.
Yeah, I'm not
Stop
going to
it.
apologize.
No, we're not gonna have any disclaimers about that. It's a fucking horrible band. Listen to The Cure or Depeche Mode. Have some goddamn dignity.
Yeah, like cut your wrists with dignity.
Nah, but it's and there's I believe Black Christmas is Canadian, all those great Cronenberg movies from the early in his career are Canadian, and there's a couple more that like I don't know. I guess that they like shooting slasher movies in the United States was kind of frowned upon. They looked at slasher movies almost like they were pornos back then.
Yeah, I was just thinking that we were talking early on about it. I can imagine like back in the like 81, I guess, going to the drive-in to see this movie, teenagers and young adults and stuff, and then walking away with like, where was the gore? Where were the kill shots? Where was the nudity? I could see like a lot of people being disappointed, thinking that they were going to see your classic titty-filled, bloody horror movie.
Well, Paramount was notorious with that. Like they had no problem counting the money that Friday the 13th made for them, because usually like whatever movies that they produced, they would usually they were bombs, except for like the slasher movies that got them out of the red and into the black, but they treated them like they were like they treated them like they were stepchildren basically.
Did when you mentioned that D about the drive-in, something that popped in my head, and having Will here can fill me in. Maybe he knows. Are there any movies, horror movies based on the drive-in? Like a nice drive-in to where like you get the couples, or you get like a spotlight on a couple families that are at the drive-in, and then the killer shows up, and
there's a. I don't mean to cut you off, but like there's two that come to mind. There's one called Dead End Drive-In, which is a pretty cool. It's almost like a Mad Max movie more than it's a horror movie. But there's a great movie that Roger Corman produced called Targets, and it's got Boris Karloff in it. It's one of his last movies. Have you ever seen it, Barry?
I've never seen that.
Yeah, and like it's about a sniper. It's loosely like it's not really kind of a slasher. It's more like Charles Whitman, the guy that was shooting people in Texas.
Uh-huh.
He goes to a drive-in and he starts shooting people, and basically people try leaving their cars, he shoots them. And it's Peter Bogdanovich is one of his first movies, and he went on to become a pretty great director in his own mind. And he's another student of Roger Corman. You see it? Are you looking it up?
Yeah, I gotta see this Dead End Drive. This is one of those covers I recall. On the Dead End Drive-In, I looked up the targets too, but yeah, this Dead End Drive-In just looks so. Dead End Drive-In looks so familiar. That box.
It's not a great movie by a stretch of the imagination. It's watchable.
Okay.
It's watchable in that the same like way like the Wraith or Maximum Overdrive is watchable.
Fuck that! Those movies are great.
I'll argue with anybody about Maximum Overdrive is one of the better movies. I've never seen anybody like long ago when we were house hopping. It's like like we go like one place to another back before like we were drinking age. Like we go over to people's houses and we hang out for a little while and pick them up and go over like basically like you pick up your crew back then. And there were so many times I remember everybody watching Maximum Overdrive. You go over to their house and like the 15 minutes in the car ride over, and you go to their house like, hey, they're watching Maximum Overdrive too. It's so like a off topic, but we had a similar thing that when my mom was in the hospital a couple years ago. On AMC, they always showed they show Back to the Future over and over again, and I was talking to the nurse. He goes, "Everybody watches this fucking movie. I don't understand it."
I don't think I've ever seen it. I know I had to have back in the day. I know I did.
You haven't seen Maximum Overdrive?
I'm pretty sure I have now looking at it. Like, yeah, I had to have.
Movie's great.
I just haven't seen the Stephen King movies. Like, I know I saw them all as a kid. Yeah, I had to have. Yeah. I mean, with Emilio in it.
Yeah, it's got your boy Emilio. It's like top 10 for you.
Giancarlo's in it.
The girl who does Lisa Simpson's voice is in it. Her name's blanking on me right now.
Who does Lisa?
And the guy who is Jim Gordon in the Batman movies.
Oh, is it Yardley Smith?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a great movie, but I've
No,
watched it many
Derek.
times.
Anytime it's brought up, Derek's like, "Fuck this."
I,
Maximum Overdrive, greatest movie of all time.
I disagree. I think it's a great movie.
Oh
And
no,
it's not a great
I've,
film. It's a great movie.
no. Here's the thing. Like I had no. I own. I have a weird double feature DVD of that too. That and Raw Deal are on the same. Like and I can't figure out how they're paired up together. I guess like, maybe Dino De Laurentiis produced both of them. But then I actually bought the Blu-ray of Maximum Overdrive, so I'm a fan. I've actually bought the movie twice in my adult life.
I mean, it's up there in greatness with Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man, right, Will?
I almost bought that for you, like because of you the other
I
day.
think I already have it actually.
No, but I had it in my hand when I was like at Half Price Books. I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
Maybe I prejudged this movie wrong. If Derek likes it, maybe there's something in there because I don't remember. I remember watching it and getting pissed off.
Like I would never say it's a great film. It's very lowbrow, but it's just a fun movie. You got Mickey Rourke wearing like he's like a weird biker, and then
Tom Johnson.
yeah, Don Johnson is the fucking cowboy, and then they go up against these guys with like these bulletproof Matrix outfits, but they don't cover up their heads, and they're using Steyr Augs, which were like at the time very futuristic looking machine guns. It's like the Wraith. I love the Wraith. The Wraith isn't like a amazing movie, but I love the car in it. The car's awesome, and you have Ron Howard's brother,
Clint,
yeah, you have Clint, who's amazing in it.
who are both Roger Corman graduates. Eh?
I mean, I'm pretty sure that like if Clint Howard's in it, it's a good movie.
Well,
That's just mean to say it's not a good movie if Clint Howard's in it.
Randy Quaid's in the movie.
Which one?
I think isn't he in Wraith?
Maybe.
Because he did 3 or 4 movies with Charlie Sheen, which is weird because like I wish they'd make a movie together now because they're both batshit crazy. Which that's something like have you all off topic? Have you all seen the insurance company with Martin Sheen? The insurance commercial with Martin Sheen and Charlie Sheen?
I think so. I can't remember. I'm old as pause. I've seen it, but I can't remember.
What I can't figure, and it's somewhat amazing to me, and it should be kind of a lesson to everybody. Like Charlie Sheen never apologized for anything, and like he keeps getting hired for shit.
Yeah.
Even though like that when he went batshit crazy that Tiger's Blood thing, like like that's gotta be 10 years ago now, right?
Winning.
Yeah. And then like then there was a period like he admitted he had HIV, I think, right?
Yeah.
And then he was quiet again, and now he's doing commercials again, which is weird. That like just
Well,
the lesson is don't apologize if you get accused of anything bad. Just
yeah, he's probably cheap.
Yeah.
But yeah, Randy Quaid was a sheriff in the Wraith.
yeah. There's a whole bunch of people. There's another. Clint Howard's brother's Ron Howard. Randy Quaid's brother's Dennis Quaid. Charlie Sheen's brother's Emilio Estevez. And there's a fourth one. Cassavetes. He's in yeah. His father was a great director, John Cassavetes, who was also a mentor to Martin Scorsese, who was also a graduate of the Corman School.
Has Clint Howard ever led a movie? Ever been the lead in a movie?
I don't know if it was a movie technically. It was a Masters of Horror episode. The guy who directed Reanimator, Stuart Gordon.
Nice.
Not the first season. He did the second. The Ice Cream Man, I think, is what it was, and he played a creepy murderer.
Yeah, I'm looking at a list here, and that's like he's on the cover, like he's the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of those guys. Like he's probably been. I mean, well, not Dick Miller numbers as far as Roger Corman goes, but Clint Howard's been in a lot of Roger Corman movies. And he's always in Ron Howard movies, of course.
You know what's crazy is, so I looked him up real quick, and there's like a modern day picture of him He looks less weird the older he gets.
I'm
Like he's
looking
growing into his weird features.
at holy shit! Like, yeah, some of these pictures of him, yeah, just a little wild.
Who, Clint Howard?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a fucking alien in his early career.
Oh, there's some of those. I sent a link to Barry. It's a Scorsese movie called Key to Reserve. Did you watch it, Derek?
Called Key to Reserve?
Key to Reserva. Is that Clint? The
Oh,
clip?
no, no.
Oh shit! I wish you would have watched it. Like, because we were talking about like show offy things, and like you're talking. It's basically a Hitchcock homage that Scorsese did, and it's really cool because it's a 10-minute movie, and it's bullshit because they make it seem like it's a lost Hitchcock script, and he does all kinds of like different like homages to different Hitchcock movies, and he did The Fall that you liked in Psycho so much.
Oh yeah. I saw that and I was like, Derek would love this.
Would love
But-
what?
Kid Reserva.
And yeah, watch it, Dave. It's like 9 minutes long. It's like half him talking about it, and the other half just the movie itself. But
We definitely need to get Will to watch The Fall.
well, yeah, for sure.
You put
So
that on
Will-
top of your list.
So, Will, I think you'll enjoy this, and I don't know if Derek knows this or not. I was wanting to make him watch one of these movies to see if he can kind of pinpoint what makes them what they are. But I went on a Russ Meyer kick this week.
Yeah.
And did you know Russ Meyer and not the local politician?
Are they not the same people?
I didn't send you a movie to watch, but I didn't want you to look him up. I heard keystrokes. I mean, you're probably looking him up, but
I can't look them. You don't want me to look them up?
I don't think so. I think you just need to watch one of these movies. It's going to be hard to get around what he's known for, but I think very shortly after watching it, you'll be like, "Oh, okay." But yeah, I started watching. See if you can find Super Vixens. That's a good one to start with, I think. But I've been watching them, and I'd never really watched them before. Will, I think I rented one of his.
Wow, that's like a hell of a cover for Super Vixens.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, like our buddy Brad, not Fingers, but the other Brad.
You always got to differentiate.
Yeah, well, there's the thing, and he's right about it. He's like, he and I have similar taste in women, and we like breast, like like in our Russ Meyer, he loved them too. He didn't fuck around, and one of the jokes that like our buddy Brad brought up, because like Russ Meyer knew how to make a movie, big breast and guns, like I mean you don't need much else, and and then our buddy Brad. Like he said, yeah, he goes, that's what Birth of a Nation was missing.
Nice.
Classic joke.
Yeah.
No, yeah, so yeah, it's a wild one. I don't know what his I always knew what he did. What he was known for, which was big breasted women, action. In today's standards you would sit there and go like, this is kind of atrocious. But there's so many things that he does that most people don't do in that time. Like there's a lot of
sexploitation, it says.
Yeah, but there's also like, I mean, he does stuff with like men. Like there's gay relationships in his movies. I've seen interracial stuff. I've seen like so far, and I'm like, is this should I feel gross for watching these or not? Because I mean, they're almost faux porn. They really are. It's like Cinemax. It's like Skinemax with more action.
What's weird is when I first met you, that was like your thing, and I don't know, maybe because it wasn't long after puberty or something. But is it Chained Heat? There was some.
That was a classic '80s movie, but
there's some movie I remember you made me and Todd watch, and it was like Girls in Prison or something.
Well, there's two. There's Caged Heat and there's Chained Heat. Caged Heat came out in the 70s. Chained Heat had Linda Blair in it.
No, it must be Caged Heat.
When me and Dee got to became friends and stuff, I was into Ed Wood, and there is an Ed Wood movie that feels very much. I mean, the end of his career is very much like a Russ Meyer career. But there's a movie where he's got 4 women that I think they escaped prison or they're out.
Yeah, they're like raping guys.
They pretty much are. And I think that's the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, I think what happened, Russ Meyer, he's one of those dudes. I believe he was in the Army. Like, and he learned how to make movies. He would do like industrial movies for the Army. So he learned how to shoot and he learned how to photograph and edit in the Army because that's what he did for 12 hours a day. And nobody would hire him in Hollywood, and because he had a vision of what a movie should be, and they didn't have porno in drive-ins, but they could get away with this stuff, like the Russ Meyer thing,
softcore, basically.
Yeah, and
I mean,
basically,
I don't know if it's today's rating. I don't know what the rating was then, but like I'm seeing like NC-17 on some of this because I mean, it's a lot of boobs and action, but like. I've seen 2 clips now where like, and I'm not talking stroke, but like some of these dudes are getting just like their dongle just kind of shifted. That's the best way to describe it. It's not
squeezy, shaky.
Yeah, it's more of a shaky. It's not even a grasp. It's just kind of like just kind of rub it and have it flop around, and it's ridiculous. No pun intended. How it's shot. I mean, it's done to almost a comedic effect. It's hard to describe.
Well, Russ Meyer, like he was funny. Like the acting in his movies isn't great. No. But he would have he liked vaudeville. I mean, his jokes. He kind of had a juvenile Looney Tunes sense of humor with things. Like his movies were all chase movies too, and most of those weird quotes on the White Zombie albums, like from the early '90s, are from Russ Meyer's movies. But he's an interesting guy.
I mean,
go ahead, Jinx.
I was just gonna say, like with the acting, I imagine that he's like looking for attractive women for movie, and then you have 30 girls show up, and he's like, all right, it's 3 days of work, and it's $50 a day, and you have to be completely naked and do a nude scene. And I imagine like the better actresses kind of walk out the door at that point, and you have ones that like can't act for shit or just get into it and have no problem getting naked, like, oh yeah, I'll do the movie.
And see, it's a healthy mixture of that. Like I said, I've seen like Super Vixens, about half of Super Vixens, and it's like there's one girl that cannot act to save her life.
Yeah.
Another one that's really not bad at all. The face that got me was Charles Napier, which I know you know him, D, if you see him.
He's got his face bit off in Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, okay, yeah. He's in Philadelphia too.
Yeah, he's Roger Corman guy.
Oh, yeah, back to Philadelphia.
Yeah, and actually from Kentucky, a Mount Union guy, it looks like. But yeah, he shows up in a couple of his movies, and it's I guess very early in his career, I guess, because one of those like, oh, yeah.
I think that's how he got cast to be, because he Jonathan Demme was a fantastic director, a Corman graduate, of course, and I think Charles Napier was in most of Jonathan Demme's movies, because I think Jonathan Demme did Caged Heat, which that might be the Woman in Cages movie that you talked about earlier. And I think Napier played like the warden, because he's in Melvin and Howard, and he's in Philadelphia. He's in Silence of the Lambs, and I think he's in Something Wild. He's one of those great character actors. We talked about Billy Zane earlier on our chat, and he's one of those character actors that like you see and you don't know his name, but he's usually you see him before movies.
Yeah, he's in Rambo: First Blood 2. Yeah, I mean, he's in Maniac Cop D. One of your favorite of all time. He's a Maniac Cop 2.
Which, if I remember correctly, is not a film that stands up to time. I'll probably have to go back and watch it again, but I'm pretty sure we watched it back when we lived together, and it's like,
You
huh.
loved them, and I was like, "This is all right." Yeah.
I I own the trilogy, and I've tried watching the first one so many times because Bruce Campbell's in it,
Yeah.
and I can't do it. And I got like a pretty good movie watching constitution. I can watch a lot of like I can handle like okay, I know there'll be something good. I just gotta stick with the movie. I'm usually disappointed, but that's one of those movies that I can't get into. And
Yeah.
and
Well,
I
it's like
think
the first Hellraiser, I think, is really rough.
Bleh. Well, the thing, Hellraiser, the second one's the only good one. The rest of them suck. Like the first one's it's hard to watch, and it's almost unwatchable. And the second one's great, but the third on are horrible.
I really liked the because the third one was like the ridiculous slasher one,
Bleh.
and I think it was I really liked Bloodlines and Inferno. I thought I enjoyed both of those.
I remember you got me, or you. I'd never watched them, and you wanted to watch them, and I think you made me watch them all. And that's the one franchise I'm like,
Nah, you're not missing much, Barry. Like,
The,
conversely, the Phantasm franchise. Are you all familiar with that one?
yeah,
That franchise is still. They just made the fifth one not that long ago, and it's fucking fantastic. Because you got Don Coscarelli, who's that's a goddamn director. He doesn't fuck around.
no,
He's no.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you gonna see there?
Nothing important. Just go ahead.
Oh, now Bubba Hotep. I think he did like the Beastmasters movies. He just makes interesting movies.
I was just gonna say, like, sometimes I get a laugh because we'll be talking about something, and Will, you'll be like, oh, we could do like 3 episodes on that.
Yeah,
And we're talking about Maniac Cop, and it's like we could do a whole episode on Robert Zadar or Robert Zadar.
yeah.
I looked at something about that recently. He's always like these bad guys in these movies, and he had some kind of like disease that gave him a facial deformity that just gave him this what's Dick Tracy style face. Which was he in Dick Tracy, by the way? Because they wouldn't have done any makeup for him to be in Dick Tracy.
yeah, it's almost like giganticism in his face.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but I remember like reading a thing. He seemed like a really interesting person, but
Well, for a long, there's a dude in the '40s named Rondo Hatton. Are you familiar with him, Barry?
Rondo Hatton, I don't think so.
Yeah, they kind of made fun of him in the Rocketeer movie, and he's only in a couple like low budget movies, but he had some kind of deformity, and he would always play like stranglers and like in the as close to slasher movies as they had in the '40s. One of the very first Mystery Science Theater episodes I ever watched was The Brute Man, and it's him, and Lee Marvin, like he had something with his face where he had a paralyzed, like the bottom half of his face was paralyzed, and his jaw always hung. So, like like you could have deformities back then and actually have acting gigs.
yeah,
They exploit you, but
yeah.
All right. Well, D, I feel like it's your duty now as an American, as a red-blooded American, to watch some Russ Meyer this week. If not just the best of, because it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. A guy that makes a movie that casts the way he does, it just does not exist today. You can't make a movie this way. I mean, outside of porn. And
well,
they look fun. They look so much fun. They look like the great popcorn movies.
but
On top of that,
Tarantino took some shit. He had a third western, and he had a casting call, and he wanted women that had natural big breast, and that was his like they call it like I think it was called period authentic breast, like which was a funny way of saying it.
It's good old Pabs.
Yeah, and I
Man,
think
that girl's got some good old Pabs on her.
that's gonna catch on like wildfire.
I'm gonna start using that now. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that he took some shit for that. Like like we have to look that up and like we'll spicy into it, but like you can't do anything at all like that nowadays. You probably couldn't do that back then. I think there was one movie he did in 1970 was actually produced by a major studio, and like because you can't get a hold of them on DVD or Blu-rays, or if you do, like you have to like buy them from actually like his foundation or wherever it is. But he like I think that the Dollhouse movie,
Beyond the Valley of the Dolls.
yeah. Like I think that was actually produced like by a studio. I mean, they made money, but they were kind of like it's sort of like the slasher movie thing. They're like, yeah, that's how we made our money. We're kind of embarrassed by it, even though money doesn't care how it's earned.
Well, 20th Century Fox, yeah. It says after the unexpected success of Easy Rider. And then the craziest thing is, as I'm looking through this, because I'm like trying to find some of his movies, and is his attachment, or his not attachment, but his relationship with Roger Ebert. Because I guess Ebert wrote a couple stories for him.
Yes.
And I was like, holy crap. This is such an interesting dude that I've always knew of, but never knew more about. So I'm definitely going to try to finish up a couple of this week just to get a broader picture of the dude. Because what I've seen so far, it's just been interesting, to say the least. I don't know how else to describe it. And what I saw was stuff that was a lot more subversive then that is more appreciated now. Outside of the large-breasted women, the other things are like, wow, that's really forward-thinking. Like, he should be applauded for that part. Like it's hard to it's like finding a porn director that's like saved Jewish children in the Holocaust. You're like, well, I can't hate him, but it's just it's weird.
Well, the thing is, back then, like they had that weird crossover period before there was home video, and they're still trying to. The movie industry was still trying to fight the TV industry. They weren't working hand in hand. So they were having to do all kinds of crazy shit to get people to go to the theaters. Because why would you want to leave your house? Like, I understand that. So they had to give them stuff that they couldn't get anywhere else. That's why during that drive-in period, Herschel Gordon Lewis thrived by giving people gore. Russ Meyer thrived by giving people big boobs and weird chase scenes. Roger Corman thrived because he just made exploitation movies, and then there's other the slasher movies and the Bonnie and Clyde ripoffs and the Mad Max ripoffs and like in that era also the Wild Bunch. Like you can watch westerns, all the like Bonanza and the Virginian and stuff like that on TV, but you weren't gonna get the story or the ending that you got in the Wild Bunch. So, because that was a way to get people to go actually out and watch movies at the theater.
Yeah.
You mentioned who'd you mention just now?
Herschel Gordon Lewis.
Herschel Gordon Lewis, and I had picked up. I'm thinking it was the Gore Girls back when I was in high school, and I never had seen that name before that moment, and was like, "What the hell is this?" Like I remember I need to go back and watch some of his pictures.
Well, the thing is, like Russ Meyer and Herschel Gordon Lewis get bought up a lot together, just because they were low budget exploitation directors. But Russ Meyer actually could film a movie. Yeah. Herschel Gordon Lewis, his movies are unwatchable. Like I've watched several of them. And again, and they're rough. There's one that's 2 hours and 20 minutes, and I'm thinking this is a drive-in movie, asshole. Like 85 to 95 minutes most. And there's I forget which one it is, but it starts off. There's two mannequin heads talking to each other, and it goes on for 5 minutes, and the gore's horrible. But there's a lot of it, but it's not you would. I don't think you'd enjoy it, Barry. If you especially since you know who Lucio Fulci is, there's no reason that's as good as Gore's gonna get.
Yeah, I didn't make me a list. I got so many things that. Is that okay, Derek, for me to watch old movies? Do you give me your permission to watch old movies?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice if you'd watch some new movies and, instead of like, oh, hey, I've got this big list of new movies that I need to watch so I can talk about them. Like, I spent all week watching Russ Meyer movies.
No problem with that. Brad says no problem with that whatsoever. What's crazy about Russ Meyer? So he loses his second wife, and I don't recall hearing about this. Is it the Tenerife? It's the airport disaster. So in 1977, 2 Boeing passenger jets collided on the runway and killed 583 people.
Good Lord.
I never heard of this.
Never heard of that in my life.
Wow.
Sounds like fun.
It happened in the Canary Islands. Huh. It's freaking crazy. But yeah, so Derek, you have homework. Watch
Fixins.
Yeah, Super Fictions. That's the one I want to get your report after I finish my version of it. I want to get together next week and discuss. But
they did a weird throwback movie, like in like 2004 or 2005. It's called the Double D Avenger, and this guy took a whole bunch of like 2 or 3 different Russ Meyer women, like Kit Natividad and I can't remember the other one's girl, the blonde one.
I couldn't tell you that.
Kit Natividad is one. Anyway, but he thought it'd be great to have like near 60-year-old big-breasted women in a campy like Avenger movie, and it's god awful. The only great thing about owning a disc, I mean, is that Joe Bob Briggs does commentary on it, and he makes it it's worth buying just because of that. And there's a great book that Joe Bob Briggs wrote called there's 2 of them, Profoundly Disturbing and Profoundly Erotic, and he talks about Russ Meyer's and Profoundly Erotic, but it's not him being redneck critic Joe Bob Briggs. It's him actually being film analysis Joe Bob Briggs. It's a great book.
Yes. Yeah, it looks like she was. I mean, she was an actress, the wife that passed in the accident. But yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, and I gotta get into Joe Bob. My buddy loves some Joe Bob, and I think he's read everything he's put out as well. And I need to get. He just wanted to get me on as a Shutter. Yeah, plus Shutter.
Yeah.
Wait, what's
Every time y'all say Russ Meyer, I think about the signs around town, and I'm like, man, like if people didn't know what he looks like, right before an election, you could just do an ad saying Russ Meyer did all these sexploitation and all these, exploiting women movies, blah blah, and you could just say it and like never show a picture of like the local Russ Meyer or anything and get away with it. And then like people watch like, oh my God, I can't vote for that guy. He's dirty. Russ Meyer, dirty old man.
I'd love an alternate universe where a biopic, a fake biopic of a guy that's like Russ Meyer but loves asses. Like all of his movies are about asses. I think it'd be hysterical. See, Will likes it. Will likes that idea.
No, I open up a memory. In Chicago, before we moved in 93, I think in 91 or 92, Sir Mix-a-Lot, that the Big Butt song came out.
Yeah.
And promotion for like the radio station, they had this big inflatable like ass that they had, and like that you said that it just brought up a memory of that. And it like they had the letters and like they had the numbers of the station and the call letters underneath it. And I think it was Z95 or B96, and it was promoting that Sir Mix-a-Lot thing, and it was pretty funny because it was just this big ass and like tight shorts. That's a guy who doesn't get enough credit, Sir Mix-a-Lot. Like he had a follow-up song called "Put 'Em on the Glass" that is as good as "Baby Got Back." Like is, but it just lacks the artistic dignity that the first song had. It's sort of like the difference between El Pinkerton and the Blue Album.
Oh shit. We went on pretty good amount of time today. Um, any parting thoughts? I think that thank you, Will, for making me watch My Bloody Valentine. It was bound to happen one of these days. Like I said, it's one of those classic horror movies that I had to see.
I think we need to give homework for everybody. We got The Fall for Will. Have to watch Super Vixens. So we gotta figure something out for Barry. That's
I
not.
also have to finish Super Vixens too. I've not watched it all.
It's not like from like 1920.
Yeah.
and doesn't like 90% of the movie isn't like going around town and meeting everybody before you get to the plot.
I did watch Driving Miss Daisy this weekend for the first time. I think. It's
Oh,
movie.
that's odd.
Don't know how I missed it, but yeah, I always wanted to. It just was one of those things where I thought it was going to be a lot more racist. Like she's like that. I was thinking it was going to be more or less in your face racist. Where her character is more, she's a race. I don't know. It's hard to describe. I just kind of feel like it's more of that submissive racism.
Oh, yeah.
That you deal with. Now I thought that was.
Well, do need to watch. What was the Groundhog Day themed horror movie?
You Kill Me, or not? You Kill Me.
Dang it.
We were all talking about it earlier.
Yeah, we'll have to find it. We'll have to definitely watch it this week because I'd like to watch that for sure. It sounds like
there's a connection to Driving Miss Daisy. It's something we were talking about earlier. If I could think about it.
Happy Death Day is the movie, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jessica Tandy was the lady in Driving Miss Daisy, right?
Yeah.
She was married to Hume Cronin, I think. There's connection, like it's this weird like thing. I gotta circle the square. Like you might have to edit some of this out.
Will's whole life is the pins with the red thread.
Yeah, the crazy.
Your whole brain is that.
Well, Hume Cronin was in. He was in Shadow of the Doubt as an actor, and he wrote Rope, the Hitchcock movie. Because we were talking about Hitchcock earlier. It was going to drive me crazy if I didn't square that circle.
It was in an excellent movie, Batteries Not Included. It still holds up.
That's the one I think I have to watch too.
That's a weird era of movies because
yeah,
like there's like several movies about aliens invading and fucking with old people that came out around the same time.
She was also in Cocoon, of course, like mainstream sci-fi that old people can watch.
All right. Well,
Was Charles Napier in that? Or no, wait.
What?
A Cocoon. No, Brian Dennehy. That's weird. My brain just made a connection I wasn't even trying to make. Well, Charles Napier's like one of the main bad guys in the second Rambo, right?
yeah.
Brian Dennehy's the main bad guy in the first Rambo. my brain just did that.
Well, we'll just die in a nuclear holocaust. Jesus.
Yeah, well, you went to explosions for some reason.
What about now?
Yeah, you're fine.
All right, sorry about that, guys. I don't know what happened.
Oh my god, it's so crazy.
Well, Will, give us our send off, please. Barry's got to go potty.
Yeah, I do too.
First of all, guys, we're grown men. We don't have to wait to take breaks. You can just go, hey, look, how's this motherfucker?
For the end of the show, we're getting there. We've
All right.
wrapped up. It's time.
All right, guys. Wear a mask, don't be a cunt. Love you, Mom.
Oh, hey, guess what, guys?
What?
Like, you will never believe this, but